And I'd achieved, I suppose, for a quad amputee over 4,500 metres, which is quite an incredible height to go to. And the doctor came over to me and said, right, Ray, I think you need a complete rest. We'll assess you in the morning, but I don't think you'll carry on. I said, well, I want to. He said, well, we'll see what goes on. And, you know, the mind is thinking, why should I do this to myself? But I rested, and Albert came in and said, are you okay? I had some soup, and they just left me to it, really. And it was a very cold night. I remember the frost sort of being round the tent, and I was freezing, really. And I tried to will myself to get better. I thought my dad, how strong his character would be. And I thought, oh, am I letting down? And I thought, well, number one is that I'm not letting anyone down, really, because I've done so much. But I felt a little bit guilty, not wishing myself to go on. And then I thought my family, my wife and my mother, and I thought, no, I don't really want to go back in a body bag, because that's what the situation would be, is either me in a body bag or me going back rescued. So the next morning came, a cup of tea, washy, and the doctor and the lead chap, Mark, came in and sat in my tent and said, right, Ray, we've made your decision for you. And, you know, you can know the answer is going to be, you're not going any further. So tears run down my face, and I don't know if it was sheer happiness or sheer upset, really, not being able to do anything more. But I think I prove a point to people that even with problems like I had, I've done so much. And I think that was it, really. You know, no body bag, go home. So they rescued me from the mountain that morning while I watched the team start to climb Branco Wall. And I know John, who took the photographs, I whispered in his ear, I said, look, please go on for me and be my eyes and my ears and just take shots of what I would have seen. So bless him, he gave me a cuddle and a kiss and said, okay, mate, off I do it. So then I was left with Stan, who couldn't go. He was kind of my buddy, who signed a form saying if I go down, he'll come down with me, and I thank him so much, because his daughter went up to climb the rest of the volcano, so he sort of was able to come down with me. So I thank him for giving up the opportunity of going with his daughter. And then I didn't realise Alan Robinson was poorly, so there was two of us coming down the mountain, and Alan was a fantastic guy. He kind of showed us the way in the strength he had. He'd done mountains before, and he'd climbed to the top of Kilimanjaro. So, you know, it was a shame, but he came down with us. So three of us were rescued, but he was very poorly and I was, so it was a tough call. And I think being rescued, you think to yourself, mountain rescue in the UK, not so. This is going to be a stretcher where to tie you on they use rope, and they don't know how to do knots. So as I'm on a mountain ridge, you'd think this is not going to be safe, but I suppose they just look after you as best they can. And when the team had sort of gone away from the distance, we started to do the climb, and they lifted me up as if I was lying in state. And as I told you, they call me Raimondo como Simba, and they were saying, oh, Raimondo como Simba, he's dying, he's not well. And they lifted me up, and I could only see blue skies and a sheer drop, and we were going up further to come down. And believe me, I needed some Pampers then, because that was quite a frightening part of my life. I was having chest pains, I was frightened, and that was it, really. These guys are going to carry me. There was about 4 porters each side, and so a team of people were helping us. Alan had gone on just limping away. He didn't want to get on a stretcher, and so that's what we did. We just went up to come down. Little did I know it's going to be a 9-hour journey to the camp where the ambulance picked us up. It was hell, absolute hell, but thank God I did it. And looking back, I suppose, I think I've achieved so much mentally and physically. And I think everybody that sees the film John took and photographs and listening to me, I think sometimes people realise that however bad you feel, there are people worse off. And I think that with a will and the strength of character, anything's possible. You know, this all sounds brilliant, doesn't it? These challenges and how you cope with life. But I can remember in the early days of having the amputations and thinking, that's not good. You know, perception from my point of view and how people perceive me is a big word, really. And I really wanted to cocoon myself into my home or even stay in the hospital where people understood me. Because I knew that this was not Ray. This is not the Ray the builder, the guy with the big BMW outside and the guy who had his own company. This is now a teddy bear Ray who's going to be rebuilt and have artificial arms and legs. And I thought to myself, if I didn't like myself looking in the mirror, I don't think anyone else would like me either. And I think to cope with that mentally is very, very tough. Now, I know I'm a strong character, and I know I've been inbuilt with that through my father. But having said that, I remember the early days of walking out with my first wife then, and we were out in I think it was like a cafe or something like that, and you could just feel people staring at you. The hairs of the back of your neck stand up, and you think, oh God, I can't cope with this. Now, when you've got long trousers on as a quad amputee, your legs don't show, but unfortunately losing your arms, and I wear an artificial carbon fibre gripper on the right to open and close and eat with, and just an artificial hand that looks quite cosmetic really. And I think people visually look at you. They don't see the face sometimes, they see what you've got as the appendage. And you become looking like a metal Mickey really. And this sort of changes your whole thought of picking up cups and that. And in the early days you just don't want to eat. Or you end up becoming a fool, and acting like a disabled person, which you're not really. You've had this blow given to you, and really it's not your call. This has happened to you, and you're trying your best to live the best you can. And I think society in the early days want to pigeonhole you. You are disabled, that's it, wheelchair, whatever, and how are we today, and does he take sugar? That is the old syndrome. But I think nowadays people have got a lot more wiser and understanding, and I think when we see our service people coming from Afghanistan and all the war zones, we appreciate that they are still alive. Yes, they're being rebuilt with artificial legs or arms, but at least they're human beings. And I think society has come round to understanding that we all have a chance. And I believe that some wheelchair people and disabled people are far more knowledgeable than these people that are just able-bodied. I mean, they've got more to give, and they understand what life's about. And I think that's where we come from nowadays. I hope and pray that I can come across to people with a nice outlook, understand more, and believe me, there are a lot of beautiful people who are disabled in the world. And I think sometimes as well, you can give a lot more when you're disabled because you understand what life's all about. And I think a lot of people don't realise the goodness and the knowledge we have to give. Regards the family and my perception of people now, it's totally different. And I think 23 years on, I just stand up and be counted. If they don't like me, they don't like me. I'm very lucky to be alive, and quite honestly, I give as good as I get. And if I'm an oddball with wearing artificial limbs, so be it. That's me special. And my family, my daughters especially, my little one Taya, always says my dad's special, and that's it. I give inspirational talks to schools, to parliament, to companies, and they look at me not in a disabled way, saying, okay, fine, he got on with it and did it. And I think people will see that nowadays. I mean, I don't get depressed anymore, but there were times when I hit rock bottom, and as I said before, I did try and commit suicide. And I think when you're at the lowest of the low and you've got nothing to give, and you get people trying to say, how are we today? Well, I mean, that's a silly statement, really. How are we? I know how I am. I'm disabled, lost my arms and legs, I've got to get on with it. And they were the early days, and I suppose really if I'd have took on board what they were trying to do, maybe I'd understand more. But I think the bedside manner in those days was very, very critical. They couldn't talk to you eyeball to eyeball. They wouldn't say, well, how you feeling? What can we do? They just talk condescending to you, and all you want to do is just go out the door and shut it, please, because you don't want to talk to them. And I think nowadays people understand more, and I think going through the low ebb I did and trying to commit suicide taught me a big lesson, actually, because it really made me realise that what a waste of time that would have been to have shut the door, switched off the light and left this mortal coil, when basically there's so much I can give. And I think we don't realise that. And I think if we took on board the help that's given in a nice way, then maybe things could change a lot more. I mean, I know that from my point of view, my destiny, as I said, is to run Limb Care, and we will be there to help anybody on our website and that. So I do understand what people go through, and my team are there to care for people. And I think communication is paramount. If you're feeling low and you're feeling cheesed off, basically talk to someone, because the power of communication is great nowadays. And I think human beings are good listeners sometimes. So I think really, all in all, the challenge I've just done has created a new empathy towards disabled people, and I do hope and pray that what we've achieved is something great. And coming back to that challenge, I must say that when I landed after being held up like being in state, and this lasted 8-hour journey that was hell, we did see the campsite in view, and we had to wait another hour for the ambulance 4x4 to pick us up. So we were just pleased to see a vehicle, but we didn't know we had 2 hours drive to basically our hotel again, or the chalets. But the nicest thing was that evening we had a shower, because we smelt like polecats. It was disgusting, really. And even now I think I still got a bit of killie in my chest. But, you don't realise even those few days without good things like a shower, fresh running water, bedclothes, it's fantastic. And so in a way, I cherish every day now that I have at home, and think it was a different thing for me, and it was so good to have my family and children in my arms when we landed at Heathrow. But I wouldn't do it again, but I'm so pleased I did this challenge.